All right, so we have Mike Tomlin's Week 14 press conference for the game versus the Browns, where we are now hosting them. And this is going to be a get payback kind of game for the Steelers. So let's see what Tomlin has to say.
Good afternoon. As always, I'll start with a quick review of our last performance. As I mentioned post game, man, I was just really appreciative of the fight, of the collective's ability to smile in the face of adversity, things that happen all the time in play, but just to display that collective mettle, the ability to respond to negative circumstance and produce playmaking. I think that's required, obviously, in the thick of your schedule in division play as the road gets narrow. It's just good to experience those things in the pursuit of victory. And there were several displays of it. Obviously, the game didn't get started the way that we would like in terms of the pick six, but I just like the offense's quick response to that in terms of taking the ball and going back down the field. I thought the offense, in several circumstances, displayed the type of complementary response that you need from an offense. Whether it was a turnover response like that or a response to a scoring drive by Cincinnati's offense, I just love that component of our play that was on display. I also liked our red zone execution. We've talked openly about utilization of the mini buy in that way in an effort to be more effective in that area. You're not going to win many games, particularly high-scoring games like we were in last Sunday, unless you're going up by 7 as opposed to by 3. Hopefully we use that as a catalyst to continue along those lines as we push into December. On the other side of the ball, when you're going against the likes of Joe Burrow and Chase and Higgins, you're going to be challenged, man, and I just like that group's collective fight. I thought early in the game in particular we didn't do a good enough job of managing Joe in terms of his ability to extend, stepping up and running up at times into the pocket in an effort to make plays. We focused a lot of energies on minimizing that. I thought we warmed up to that component of play. I thought we settled it down some in the second half with a variety of fronts and calls and so forth, and obviously the effort of our guys. You're going to need some turnovers to get out of an environment like that, and can't say enough about the efforts, not only in terms of the general playmaking, but the ball awareness. The hunting of the football is required. The three takeaways, obviously, one being a return for a score was a significant component in terms of how the game played out.
Great job by Nick
Didn't like,
and Peyton.
a couple of things that happened in the special teams game. I thought they had the field position component of it. Our kickoff units didn't pin them back well enough. We deferred and chose to kick off, but I think they got the ball on the plus side of the 30. And when we make that decision, man, we're trying to fight for blades of grass. And, any yard that you get on the opposite side of the 30 is an advantage for us and not so when you don't. And so we need to get better in that area. And also we got a kick blocked, and we can't allow anything to minimize the exploits and talents of Boz. It's automatic, and so
What happened there?
we got to shore up those things, in particular because when you have stuff on tape in the NFL, you better respond quickly, appropriately in terms of minimizing it. Errors like that provide focus and agendas for others, and so we're preparing with an edge, understanding that as we get ready to go this week. From a health standpoint, a couple things of note. Fully expect Alex Highsmith to be available to us this week. We got some other guys that might position themselves for the consideration as well. Corey Trice, Mon Adams, Calvin Austin is in the concussion protocol, and so we'll follow the medical experts there and let them provide us appropriate information about where he is and what the prospects of his participation might be based on that. Now let's get back, and I say let's get back because it feels like I was just talking about Cleveland. Let's get back to Cleveland. If you saw the game last night, man, you saw what they're capable of with Dorsey as a play caller and Winston as a quarterback. It was some explosive playmaking. They went up and down the field. Judy had a big night. And that's what I meant when I described him as a gunslinger a couple of weeks ago when we played him, man. He's got unbelievable arm talent. He was the first pick in the draft, and you're not the first pick in the draft for no reason, man. He's got arm strength. He's got accuracy. He's got trajectory. He can place the ball just about anywhere on the field. He's a big-time competitor to boot. He never turns down competition. He's going to fight to win possession downs and things of that nature, man. We got to do a really good job of matching that competitive spirit, making our plays, knowing that there's a potential that you could give some up, man, when a guy comes at you the way he does and with the amount of weaponry that he has at his disposal. I'll talk about some of those weapons. Can't say enough about Njoku, man, and his growth and development over his time in Cleveland. He's a splash play guy. He's down the field in a lot of ways. He's really good in the underneath rhythm passing to get spot drop zones. And so he's a big play guy and a high volume guy. He does a real nice job in max protection. They balance out the max protection by hitting him on check downs and throwing tight end screens. It's kind of always been a function of their ball since he's been there. We got to be thoughtful about who we put on him and when. He's a big-time red zone threat. He got big in the red zone against us for a two-point play. He got big last night in the red zone as well. It shows up consistently, and so it's something to be reckoned with, his talents and the way that they utilize his talents. Judy is a route runner. They move him around quite a bit to make it difficult for you to match up on him. But they do a really nice job of utilizing his skill set. There's not a route that he can't run. He gets in and out of breaks really well. He's capable of going by you in terms of the vertical passing game. He can create space and separation in the non-vertical passing game with his short area quicks. Moore and the others, man, will round out the group. Both of the running backs, and I say both backs because, man, they're utilizing Ford equally as much as they are Mr. Chubb at this juncture, and so we got to respect that component of it as well. We're always ready and respectful of the talents of Chubb. His pick and vision and patience and ball placement, his contact balance, all of those things are top tier. That's why he's had the career that he's had, and we've had some high quality matchups against him in the past, and so we're working with an edge with that understanding and with the evolution of Jerome Ford during his absence, man. They've got an awesome 1-2 punch. Ford is big play capable. When he came out in the draft, I think he had the most explosion plays of any running back in his draft class, and I think that's still evident in his play today. He's capable of some breakout runs. He had a big one last night as well. And so, just minimizing who they are and how they divide their labor up and getting more familiar with their offense under the current circumstances a challenge. We got familiarity because of the continuity there and obviously the divisional relationship component, but with Dorsey being a relatively new play caller and Winston being new to this division, there are a lot of things that kind of have our attention in an appropriate way to make sure that we're positioning ourselves for the high-level strategy that takes place when you're in divisional ball, particularly the second time around. On the other side of the ball, we didn't do a good enough job of minimizing Myles Garrett in the first game, man. He was significant, not only his playmaking, but the energy that he provides, his teammates, their followers. He made some significant plays early on in that game that made it tough uphill sledding the rest of the way for us. But it's not just the beginning of the game. It's over the course of the entirety of the game. We better work to minimize his impact. They do some awesome things to challenge you in that way. They move him around quite a bit. Both edges. He also plays on the interior. We better do a really good job in one-dimensional moments, obviously. You get behind the chains, possession downs, etc. He's at his best in those moments, and not only is he looking to close the door in terms of the pocket, but he's always ball searching and has been highly productive in that area as well. He's got a well-rounded group along with him. Tomlinson is a core interior guy and run stopper. They do a nice job on the second level playing behind that collective. Jordan Hicks was fresh off an injury the last time we played him. He's really probably showing that he's gaining some traction in terms of play, being back in the fold and being a central communicator and in the mix at just about everything that they do on the second level. And then they got a veteran secondary, one that's been together for a number of years. They got 3 top-flight corners that's been there a number of years. Can't say enough about Denzel Ward, his awareness, his eyes, his ball skills. He made a nice play last night. That's not surprising in any way. But just that overall collective. Newsom is a former first-rounder that plays. Emerson, obviously, is, I think, former third-rounder. Those guys have been together, that collective, for a number of years. They got a veteran safety tandem that plays very solidly as well. Can't say enough about Delpit and his versatility, all the things that he does for him. He plays linebacker in one-dimensional passing circumstances. He's often the down safety and run fits. He's a good blitzer. He covers tight ends in one-dimensional passing circumstances as well. And so, man, we got a lot of things to get prepared for, but I'm sure they have a similar posture. The familiarity makes it fun and challenging at the same time. I'm excited about getting started with this process, man, and continuing with our divisional journey. No rest for the weary. I'm excited about getting back to it this week in the confines of Acrisure. I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Your offense in Cincinnati and what you saw with the Browns last night against a pretty good defense, are you more comfortable now than, say, maybe early in the season playing in a shootout if you have to?
You know, I don't know that I'm ever comfortable playing in a shootout. It's just my background and my expertise, to be quite honest with you. I respect offenses and talented players, and I acknowledge when we're faced with stiff challenges, but it doesn't mean that I'll ever be comfortable in those circumstances. I have certain expectations because of my professional journey on defense that I expect us to slow those things down and minimize some of that. In the rare instances that we don't, I'm thankful that we have an offense that's capable of matching it.
I know you don't have control over the schedule and don't care about it, but whenever you have a game like this, it's so fresh, like against Cleveland, does that change your approach at all to how you prepare for a game like this, or how you even try to defend against what they do?
It does not, to be quite honest with you. It's the second time around. We come into each season knowing that we get 2 shots at divisional opponents. The only thing that might change the texture to it is it might be some player availability circumstances that happened in game 1 that might still persist in game 2, and oftentimes that's not the case. But other than that, it's the second time around in divisional play for us. It doesn't matter for me whether we played them, you know, a week ago or a month ago. We have that experience. We got to put together plans and counter plans based on what transpired, and I'm sure they're doing similar things.
Why does Russ fit in so well here?
You know, I don't know. You know, he's a football guy, you know. He loves football. He likes to work. I think that if you had that general approach, this is probably an easy train to get on because that's my tenor, that's our tenor. We love football. We like to work at it. We like to take the mystique out of performance. You do that through high energy and urgent preparation, and all of those things appear to be naturally him.
You guys seem to be giving up more chunk plays the last couple of weeks on defense. Will you guys have to show up in your passing game to limit those opportunities?
You know, I'm not ready to acknowledge that as a trend, to be quite honest with you. You know, we played some good offenses and guys have made some plays. We're going to continue with our preparation process and put our best foot forward and hope that we minimize it this time around, certainly.
Mike, Joey was penalized, I think, 57 yards in that game. Is there anything you need to tweak with his kind of approach?
No tweaks in terms of the approach. Certainly, he could have been better from a technical standpoint. In review of the tape, you know, some technical things at the line of scrimmage that oftentimes lead to circumstances down the field could be better. But also, as I mentioned after the game, a component of that is competing against the likes of T. Higgins and his style of play. I felt the same way when we played DK Metcalf late last year, for example. You have to match physicality of these big people, and sometimes you do so at risk, and that's just a tightrope that I and he are willing to walk in an effort to be competitive. One thing we're not going to do is turn it down and allow him to catch the ball. He's a big guy. As you saw that touchdown he had late in the game against Cam Sutton, he is a challenge. And so, when we play Shaq, we're going to use our fouls. We're not going to allow him to get us off the block, if you need a basketball analogy.
Like in the 6 quarters that you've had since halftime in the last Cleveland game, where has your offensive line gotten better, and what can you pull from either against Cincinnati or the second half against the Browns?
I have no idea. I hadn't looked at that small sample size, to be quite honest with you, in an effort to paint a picture. We're just trying to be our best each and every down. We had a bad half. We made some corrections. We went out and played better in the second half. We had a week's preparation last week in an effort to tee up against a familiar opponent. So I don't know that there's any trends there worth mentioning from my perspective.
Mike, is there a challenge in playing a team that they're not going to make it to the playoffs this year? They're maybe more aggressive. They went on fourth down a lot against you guys. Maybe if their season circumstance was different, they would be maybe more conservative. Is there a challenge in that?
I don't care about the circumstances of people we compete against and how it might affect their decision making. I'm just playing to win. I assume that people are going to pursue victory aggressively. That's just a component of the National Football League, particularly as we get into December. And so I think I have that mindset every week. They could be 3-9, or they could be 9-3 and have that same posture. And so that's my general mindset.
A couple weeks ago, with the Russ had that interception in the end zone when he was targeting Darnell late in the red zone. What does it say about him that last week he adjusted to the game plan, was taking the checkdowns, and was kind of maybe smarter with the football?
I don't know if there's an adjustment there. That's just such a small sample size, like I was just saying there. We're going to have some plays that we wish we could have back, but it doesn't change our posture in terms of approach, and he's just simply playing subsequent downs and drives and opportunities.
What kind of time is carved out in practice for any kind of improvisation, such as like scramble drills for Russ and the receivers or tight ends?
It's a component of everything that we do. Sometimes we're more intentional about it than others based on a variety of circumstances, talents of people that we play, or the schematics that they deploy. We're capable of thoughtfully extending plays, not only for our offense, but for our defense, to make sure that we're capable of functioning under those circumstances. Big plays happen on play extensions for both sides. It can be offensive positivity or offensive negativity, and so it certainly is an area to focus on and work. And during team development, I like for it to happen naturally, but if it didn't happen naturally enough, I'll create circumstances where it does.
You're the head coach in one place for as long as you have been. How do you go about ensuring that your voice stays fresh for players, and two, how do you avoid like burnout in a profession that really can promote it?
That question's easy for me. I love what I do. It's my job and my hobby, so burnout is not a component of the equation for me. I'm excited each and every week about the challenges that this role provides me and us. In regards to the messaging getting stale, I work with extreme urgency because I realize the careers of these players are short. And so my audience is forever changing. And so I'm less concerned about getting stale, and I'm more concerned about matching the urgency that is the short careers of most of these players. There are outliers like Cam that's been in there for 25 years listening to me, but I care less about how he receives the message and more about developing guys like Benton, who's a year and a half into receiving these messages. And man, I just want to continue to hammer home values and cultural values and how to play and so forth. And so experience has taught me that the stale component is probably overblown because the audience is forever changing.
Mike, on that note, how do you and your coaching staff kind of manage the highs and lows of individual players from week to week, whether it's a TJ Watt or Dan Moore or Joey Porter Jr.?
I could talk forever about that, or I could give you a two-word answer. The bottom line is that's coaching. Coaching is being what they need you to be, whether it's encouragement or criticisms, not only in your words but in your actions. That's the job. Beyond the strategic component, the motivational component for individuals and collectives, we need to be what it is they need us to be.
The game, you said that George needed to grow up regarding the penalties that he had. That's been a recurring thing Because of that, at what point do you consider changing the approach to work on him minimizing those penalties and situations in game?
I'm not going to give you any detail about what goes on behind the scenes in terms of his growth and development. You know that's my style, and I'm going to be really consistent in it. Being transparent with you guys doesn't necessarily help or accelerate the growth process, and that's my agenda, not necessarily feeding the beast.
The concern that he's had these penalties that are costly.
If it is or isn't, I wouldn't necessarily tell you, to be quite honest with you.
You threw the ball to your run people. 3 passes to Michael Pruitt, targeted. Ben caught one pass, and then another 3 to Cordero. Is that a matter of changing your tendencies, wanting to change your tendencies, and is that just part of coaching and schematics?
You know, I think it's being inclusive, man, and spreading the ball around, and Russ did an awesome job of that. I think when you do that, you make yourself a really tough group to manage and defend, and sometimes that's done through a variety of ways. Maybe it could be intentional on your part. Maybe it's just simply taking what the opposing defense is giving you schematically. Their attention might be on more known and consistent targets. And so neither here nor there for us. Spreading the ball around is a good thing, certainly.
You guys had more yards after the catch in that game Sunday than any team had all year. Is that something that you guys think you can replicate more often this season, just with the playmakers that you have?
It has been our mindset since the early stages of team development. We've placed Mike Sullivan in charge of run after. He's a run after catalyst for the group. Sometimes if you want to point an emphasis in a certain area, you put somebody in charge of it, you allow them to own it. Grady Brown's in charge of the turnover culture on defense, for example. And because those are spaces that we want to dominate, we want to be a lead in. We believe it makes our process of the pursuit of victory more fluid. And so we're excited about that. It's not haphazard, it's very intentional, and hopefully it continues.
How does Russ's experience help that with pre-snap recognition to getting the ball out in the right spots?
Russ's experience helps with everything. You could apply that to any discussion. He's been doing it at a high level for over a decade, certainly.
What does the ability to play 3 outside linebackers do for your defense? And now that you have your full complement from one of the few times this season, do you think you could do it more?
Pretty exciting, isn't it? Let's see where the roads lead, man. We got a week of prep. You can't run out of rushmen. I'm so excited about the potential of getting Alex Highsmith back, and the development of Herbig, the acclimation of Preston. You can't run out of rushmen, particularly in December, and so it's exciting. Make no mistake, there's enough work for all parties involved, and we're excited about sorting that out as we prepare.
You talked about moving the ball around. How much more does it need to be moved around to get Mike involved, or when perhaps can he get into the dominoes here?
It's going to happen. It's simply a matter of time. I was really encouraged by the playmaking that he made during the week in preparation for the game, and oftentimes when you're making plays in preparation, it ultimately shows up in play. And so I don't think any of us are pushing the panic button in that regard. I think all of us are just, anxiously awaiting what we're looking at day to day to turn up with a higher level of consistency in stadium in terms of the opportunity.
Mike, last time you played the Browns, you were facing a short turnaround in a hostile environment and the weather conditions. How much does this maybe play in your favor this time?
I hadn't thought about it, to be honest with you. Some of those variables that you mentioned are things that I ponder late in the week, where there's less speculation about weather conditions and so forth. At the early stages of the week, man, I'm just leaning in on the strategy, the player matchups, and the divisional labor component of planning.
The 43-yard slant to Van Jefferson. Russ is at the line of scrimmage. Is he going through some different checks? Is he changing the play, and is that just an example of his experience? Potentially. And it is an example of the latitude that experience provides, not only in terms of getting us in the correct plays, but just the communication component in a hostile environment and working the play clock and some of those things. That's what I mean. There's not an equation or circumstance where his experience doesn't weigh in a positive way in terms of some of the things that happen in play.
What do you say about Arthur Smith and how his work has played out this year as far as building off of success early on and getting more results from your guys' offense?
Man, having a lot of fun with Arthur. He's wired like I'm wired. He is a big-time competitor. He's excited about the next challenge. He cares less about what's in our rear view, only in terms of how it helps us get better. He's loving being a component of this AFC North football, and so I'm excited about continuing to go with him and what waits on us this week.
Is there something about Joey's comportment that sort of allays any concerns about one bumpy week sort of bleeding into the next?
Heck yeah, man. He's got a serial killer's mentality. But if you're going to be a top flight corner, you better. And that's probably one of the things that I knew about him because of our personal relationship that really made me comfortable drafting him. It's not fake, it's real. He's not running from the fight, he's running to the fight.
He's Easy Jr.
You better have a short memory at that position, and he's always had it. He was probably 9 or 10 when I met him, and he had it then.
Expand on the serial killer mentality?
Meaning that, he's a competitor. He's running to it. He's ill-affected by the outcome of plays. His confidence is unflappable, and all of that is needed.
Mike, Cam Sutton got the majority of the snaps over Beanie Bishop. What was the reasoning for that decision?
Just the complexities of what they do offensively, the fact that we were facing Joe Burrow, some of the challenges in terms of how they move people around. I thought it would benefit us to have a more veteran guy in the interior of our sub package, and it would aid us not only in terms of concept recognition but communication. Beanie still played in the game, and he's going to be a big-time component of what we do, and we're pleased with his contributions thus far. But week in and week out, we divide the labor up in an effort to win that game, and that's why we were so excited about getting Cam back. He's a Swiss Army knife. He's an awesome communicator. He's a high-level professional, and you have an opportunity to utilize those talents in a game like that. It's helpful. There's some things that Beanie does better than him, and so it's just really cool to have viable, capable guys for circumstances, because we're going to divide the labor up as we see fit in an effort to position ourselves to win football games and in that case play good defense.
Anyone else?
Mike, you gonna watch Hard Knocks?
Absolutely not.
Thanks, guys.
Wow. Why does he need to watch it, though? It's him. Granted, he can get a look in at the other teams, but it's not really that important, if you're not facing them. But you're not going to see that until the following week. Anyway, so alright, I didn't write too much stuff down here. So basically, Calvin, he took a couple big hits in the game. He has a concussion. Alex Highsmith, while many suspected he could be back for this game, he'll actually be back by, I think, did I say this past? I don't know. That people thought he'd be back for Cincinnati. Turns out no, so now he'll be back for the second game versus Cleveland. And we'll see what goes on with Corey Trice and Mon Adams. So I want to talk a little bit about Cleveland versus Denver, specifically Jameis's stats, just because that was talked about shortly. So Jameis versus Denver completed 58.6% of his passes. He had 497 passing yards, threw for 4 touchdowns to his team, 6 touchdowns total. But he had 3 picks, 2 of them being pick sixes. So let me see quickly if I can get, he had the completion percentage, like I said, but let me see if I can get his actual, 34 of 58. And a lot of people were saying, 500 yards passing and 2 pick sixes is like, with 4 touchdowns to his own team, is like the most Jameis game ever. And yeah, like that kind of epitomizes Jameis Winston. The man who threw 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions in the same season. I'm going to take this off, by the way. So I saw a tweet today, and it talked about the buy-in of the Steelers and how everyone is buying in, and it seems different than years past. And it really does feel like this is a real team. And they talked about Russ and him being here versus like Denver. I was writing something down, so I caught the tail end of that. But like I caught that quick. And it does feel like this is a real team. Like weeks ago, who was it? Damian Woody, I think it was, said the Jets don't have a team. They have a roster. The Steelers have a team. I really liked how Mike Tomlin just really wasn't giving anything away. Whether it was about George or the process, anything. Or like, this kind of falls under Russ, but not really. But it was like at the line, the huge completion to Van Jefferson. And it was like, they changed that? And it seemed like it on tape. Because Dan Orlovsky brought it up. Because that was a play where they had 7 guys at the line. And they had 4 guys out in coverage to cover the Steelers. 4 guys split out. So like that told Russ this is a blitz. Whereas when you had 8 at the line and 3 out and 4 guys to go out for the pass and no one was covering Ben Skoranek, Russ knew this is bullshit. They're bluffing. So it's just him not giving anything away. That's very much Tomlin. And veterans, talking about Cam Sutton playing more than Beanie did. And it's like, yeah, and Russ, again, with like changing protections or being able to tell, yes, this is a blitz, no, it's not. It's just veterans will give you something that rookies typically can't. Not that they never will, but it's just typically. And then this is one I wrote down earlier, but I told myself to save this for last. Hard Knocks. And this is actually kind of perfect because the last person asked if he'd be watching Hard Knocks. So I'm recording this, let's see, it is 11:51 p.m. on December 3rd. So Hard Knocks, the first episode came out today, a couple hours ago. Premiered at 9 p.m. Eastern. With that, it's like a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff. But in years past, I have heard that the team basically has the power to approve or decline what makes it into the show. So could be, in theory, this week after playing Cincinnati. Because the first episode was leading up into the game versus Cincinnati. For Baltimore, it was the game versus the Eagles. Cincinnati was versus us. And Cleveland was versus Denver. And we didn't see that game. They didn't go that far. But still, it showed like the week's progress. So episode 2, I highly doubt we're gonna see like Coach Tomlin focusing on George during the week. Like, they had like the small little couple moments on the sideline, like after the pick six. I think after his touchdown, maybe. Like, there was just little things like that. So, anything behind the scenes, the Steelers or Tomlin, I don't really know who it is, will have permission to be like, or had the power to be yes, no, yes, no. So it was like, yeah, I'm not going to tell you. It's like, yeah, but we'll figure out in Hard Knocks. No, you won't. So, or it's likely you won't. I mean, it's possible it makes it in there, but I doubt it. So, yeah, that's all I wrote down. I mean, this is really a payback week. I think the Steelers are going to come into this game pissed off. I think they want to win. I think they want to win bad and prove that, this game, the first game versus Cleveland, was not their best. We're gonna host you now, and you're gonna get our best. And it's gonna be limiting Miles, which is a lot easier said than done, and it's gonna be having more production than what we had on defense. Cause I'm just, it's a couple weeks ago, so I'm trying to think, but like TJ had like nothing. And a couple guys got there. Nick had a big forced fumble on Jameis, strip sack, whatever you want to call it. So it's just, we are really going to need to try and beat them. Give them our best. And if we truly give it our best, I like our chances. And we're going to be pissed off. Like, I truly believe that. We are going to come into this game pissed off. So give Dan help against Miles, and we'll go from there. But to have our full complement of outside linebackers, too, is going to be awesome. So, yeah. That is it for this one. If you guys did enjoy it, please do leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.